What's up guys, are you wondering what the hell the Amazing Spider-Man 3 will be like? Well, you've come to the right place. Visual Maximus here, and today I'm going to be giving you guys some spoilers, so be warned that this could come true and I've potentially spoiled you in 4 years, but just be warned. So yeah, you've come to the right place. Hopefully I can give you some insight on the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Grab some popcorn, grab a cup of coffee, whatever you want, and just sit back and relax. But before I get into it, like the video, subscribe if you're new, share the video, comment your thoughts and opinions on Spider-Man. Do you like Spider-Man? Do you dislike him? Do you think he's on an okay superhero? Or are you like me, you love the guy? So let's get straight into it. So Spider-Man, or the Amazing Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man 3 is set for a 2018 release. Although it was pegged for a 2016 release date 2 years from now, Sony recently announced that the third movie in Mark Webb's trilogy is now set for a 2018 release. Which means that yes, we're going to have to wait a whopping 4 years until it hits cinemas. Which is sort of enough time for us to have forgotten about the franchise entirely, isn't it? At least it would be if Sony weren't pushing an array of spin-offs and side sequels. I say array, but actually they're only really making a Sinister Six movie with a rumoured female Spider-Woman movie, or somewhere along those lines anyway. Why so long then? Pretty much it's presumed that Sony were a little pissed off at the relatively lukewarm box office results. The movie did make 700 million though, but was still seen to be a disappointing result and negative critical reviews. They're taking their time to ensure that the movie turns out right. Also, they're planning their own cinematic universe of sorts. And when I say sorts, it's kind of a cinematic universe, only it's based upon one character, and that's Spider-Man. And we imagine that they're using the time to shoehorn in as many new characters as possible, like they did with the Amazing Spider-Man 2, and we all know how that came out. So please Sony, do not do that. Now, let's go to another spoiler. Right, so Mark Webb is still attached to direct, if you didn't know. Nobody seems to be all that sure whether or not Mark Webb, who came fresh off rom-com 500 Days of Summer and has since both directed The Amazing Spider-Man and its sequel, was actually a very good choice for director. Sure, he's put in a couple of relatively assured movies, but something does seem somewhat off. Whether that's down to the scripts or the studio's insistence on incorporating much too much remains unclear. Still, as it stands, Webb remains attached to direct the next installment and will presumably start working on the project in the not too distant future. It's nice that, despite the hiccups, Sony are giving Webb the opportunity to direct the third movie. Too, in most cases, poor box office results and negative reviews might have been blamed on the director. But the studio seems to have taken the brunt of the criticism and are happy for the guy to continue. Now when I say that directors get blamed, the most infamous time I can remember for this is Iron Man 2 actually, when Jon Favreau, the director of Iron Man 2, got kind of blamed for Iron Man 2, and if he got axed, we don't know. If he left, we don't know. But something happened and he left basically. He didn't, but we do know he left, but we don't know if he had left as in he said, you know what, Marvel, I'm done, I don't want to direct Iron Man 3, or the fact that Iron Man 2 was seen as a very bad movie and Marvel said to him, goodbye man. I don't know, but Shane Black came on board and has since been directing has since directed Iron Man 3, which wasn't looked at that much better, but it was better than Iron Man 2 in my opinion. So another thing is, but it'll be his last Spider-Man movie. Now to elaborate, despite the fact that Mark Webb will return for The Amazing Spider-Man 3 then, he won't reprise his role as director for the inevitable fourth installment. The Amazing Spider-Man 4, which as it stands, doesn't have a confirmed release date. This makes sense really, given that Webb presumably wants to try other things, experience other projects, and probably doesn't want to spend more than a decade on a single film franchise. Just imagine that. Really, I just wouldn't like to be a director of a movie for more than a decade. That would be really bad for my resume. So, Spider-Man could appear in the Sinister Six movie actually, despite several reports that the upcoming Sinister Six movie, which will focus on formation of a large team of supervillains led by Harry Osborn forming an anti-Spider-Man group, wouldn't feature Andrew Garfield as our favourite web-slinger, it's now come to light that, hey, the movie might end up featuring him after all. This makes sense given that The Amazing Spider-Man 3 is now 4 years off. Surely we can't wait for Spidey for that long. So I'm almost certain that we'll meet Mary Jane Watson. Mary Jane Watson was cut from The Amazing Spider-Man 2, presumably at the point when the studio realised that they'd overload the film with far too many subplots already, and throwing in a love triangle wasn't going to help matters. Talented actress Shailene Woodley was set to play Peter's second love interest. Of course, and when Sony decided to give her the boot, bizarre rumours began to circulate that she wasn't deemed hot enough. Whether or not that was true, and we can assume that it was not because Shailene Woodley is almost definitely hot, according to opinion, but in my opinion she is, there's no doubting that the character of Mary Jane Watson will find her way into The Amazing Spider-Man 3. So, Mark Webb wants J.K. Simmons to return for J. Jonah Jameson. Yes, J. Jonah Jameson is probably the perfect casting ever done from a comic book adaptation movie. I mean, if you see J. Jonah Jameson in the comics, you can just go look him up in Google Images. The guy looks like a spitting image of J. Jonah Jameson. So it's no reason to ask why Mark Webb wants J. Jonah Jameson to be played by J.K. Simmons. So the only thing is, J.K. Simmons currently is doing stuff for the Avatar The Legend of Korra series. Although that's coming to an end and he's pretty much done for the series, it's odd when you implement a character that was in the past franchise into the new franchise. It just doesn't work out that well. So we'll just see if that actually comes to light. It probably won't, but it'll be cool as hell. Before that, I don't think we'll see J.K. Simmons in the Amazing Spider-Man movies as J. Jonah Jameson, because I don't think anybody else can play him, to be honest. So let's get on to another spoiler. Lastly, this isn't really a spoiler, but there's no reason that it can't be the best Spider-Man movie ever. Think about it. The Amazing Spider-Man 3 has a lot going for it. Potentially, it could be the greatest Spider-Man movie ever made. That there is a monumental amount of talent involved, and given that everybody should have finally learned their lessons from the mistakes inherent to The Amazing Spider-Man 2, there's ground for a really dramatic and action-packed extravaganza. New love interests, new villains, the potential death of our hero. Yes, he could die. In fact, this could be the last movie for Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker, as maybe Sony has plans to involve Spider-Man 2099 or Ultimate Spider-Man, also known as Miles Morales. And given that the bulk of our villain backstories will be dealt with the Sinister Six, the Parker family storyline has been mostly resolved, and Spider-Man has committed himself to fighting crime to avenge the death of Gwen Stacy. The Amazing Spider-Man 3 really presents Sony with the following questions. For what reason can't this be the best Spidey movie ever? We'll find out in 4 years' time. So there you guys go. That's my spoilers for The Amazing Spider-Man 3. I hope I helped you guys out. Hopefully I did. Let me know in the comment section below if I did. And that's it from me, guys. Peace.